2020. Today, I will be introducing Dr. George Philippidis, our Associate Dean for Research, and he will introduce our guest speaker. Dr. Philippidis?
Thank you, Kelly. Can you hear me? You can, okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our seminar today. We are very pleased to have Dr. Michael Fountain as our speaker. Michael has served for 18 years as the founding director of the USF Center for Entrepreneurship that many of you must be familiar with here at USF. He has held senior faculty appointments at the University of South Florida, including the College of Business, the College of Pharmacy, the College of Medicine, and the College of Engineering. Currently, Michael serves on the board of directors and on advisory boards of several companies in the fields of nanotechnology, biotechnology, and life sciences. Michael has recently been recognized as one of the most outstanding entrepreneurship educators in the United States. Michael, welcome, and we are ready to listen to you.
Can everyone hear me? Thank you, George and Kelly. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity today to speak with our students. The topic can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to be doing today is talking with you and discussing with you the use of intellectual property and its different developments here, and how we can incorporate that to develop sustainability and enterprise venturing. In other words, how can we integrate in intellectual property into the creation and growth of a sustainable enterprise that incorporates sustainability principles. So to start with, I'd like to set the stage by talking just for a moment or so about what are some of the key entrepreneurial attributes that we think about in successful new ventures. Well, the first and probably foremost of those would be the ability to see opportunities where others may not, and then to execute upon those, to be able to marshal the resources that we need, not only to start the business, but to grow it. And clearly, along those lines, for it to be a sustainable enterprise, there has to be an identification of a clear unmet customer need so that products and services can be developed. And then finally, we should be thinking about applying not only the principles of entrepreneurship, but an entrepreneurial mindset, and being able to think, quote unquote, out of the box and to use innovation and creativity effectively. So if we do this, it gives us the ability, if we incorporate intellectual property, a way to utilize techniques to create value for our enterprise and for our customers, and probably more importantly, and most importantly, to differentiate the venture and its products and services from its competitors. This gives us the ability to overcome adversity through tenacity and thinking wisely as we move forward. So with those in mind, how would you define, or how would I define sustainable entrepreneurship? Well, it really has three key elements. And the first of all is that the venture itself, like any other entity, but especially one that incorporates sustainability and becomes a sustainable venture on its own, should be mission oriented. It's sustainable business, adding not only to the bottom line, but adding ecological, economical, and social values and gains with a bias toward the intangible, especially resocialization and dematerialization when appropriate. Two other key elements come into play with this. The first is for the enterprise to focus, as we've said before in the first slide, on a problem that hasn't been solved, and to come up with a way to solve that problem inventively and to bring that innovation to market by creating an efficient organization. And that's a key element for sustainable enterprise. And then finally, for the enterprise itself, the value that we create through our products and services preserves and restores and ultimately enhances the underlying capital stock in the company. And it fulfills the needs not only of the present generation of customers, But as the company grows and evolves and develops, it allows it to meet the needs of coming generations of stakeholders as well. So why use intellectual property in sustainable enterprise? Most people would think about intellectual property as a way primarily to defend yourself against others from using it. Well, that is true, and that's important for the enterprise to develop products and services. But what it does also, and most people don't think about this, is that it provides a key access that fosters innovation and creativity. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go along. For someone who receives a patent or a copyright or a trademark, these are time limited. And once they're in the domain where everyone can read them, others can follow behind and improve upon them. So the use of intellectual property is not, as we say here in our first point, really does provide protection with legal enforcement in a global marketplace. So if we create the patent, if we create the copyright, the trademark, or the know-how or trade secret, it's enforceable in a global marketplace. But for us and for the customer, it gives us a way to identify and differentiate ourselves from others, and a way for our employees to recognize the value of the products and services that we create and how that relates back to the enterprise mission. It also provides a platform to advance the venture's mission and vision related to sustainability principles. And then the last two here are important as well. It fosters that environment of creativity and innovation for others to follow, not only for people within the company to improve the products and services, but people on the outside to compete effectively and improve the products and services. And then finally, it gives us as a company, as a sustainable enterprise, the ability to take a key leadership role as a corporation for the venture on a worldwide stage. So the types of intellectual property, most of you may have heard of things like patents and copyrights and trademarks, service marks and corporate logos. And we'll talk a little bit about those as we go along, but trade secrets and know-how are also important. Trade secrets are things that are not necessarily disclosed. A good example of that might be the special sauce, so to speak, that was put into Coca-Cola, never disclosed, but kept secret within the company. Others have been the spice blend that was used in Kentucky Fried Chicken. And one of the ones that was kept trade secret for many years was the lubricant that was used as a general lubricant in the oil industry. And then know-how, of course. Know-how are just those things that the company and the individuals learn how to do and pass on from generation to generation. So what are trademarks, and why do they have value in sustainable venturing? Well, a trademark is different from a patent and a copyright. A trademark is a word or a phrase or a symbol or a design or a combination of those that distinguishes the source of the goods from others. And the nice thing about this is, once that trademark is put in place, it can be registered with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and it becomes the property of the entity that files for the trademark. The nice thing about trademarks, they last as long as the owner uses them in commerce, and they can be defended against infringement, but only if they're registered with the Trademark Office. An individual doesn't necessarily have to do that, but if you're and you want to use your trademark to help identify your company and its values, you certainly want to do that. You want to register it. Now, it also gives for consumers a way to understand and to see the specific how that specific brand exists relative to others. And it gives us the ability to raise unique brand awareness and help generate sales. It can literally turn a casual customer or consumer into someone who's willing to pay for that product or service, identifying with the value proposition for a lifetime. And it's also important to consider too with trademarks, although the ability to keep them in play and to defend them sometimes can be expensive. It's generally not as expensive as the advertising and marketing that's used with the trademark. But what it does do is it gives the venture the ability to identify themselves and their values with potential customers. And that's vitally important for a company to be sustainable. So, what are some of the different examples of highly recognized trademarks? And these I've got a list of them here that we can take a look at. I'm going to just go through maybe 2 or 3 of these, and then Kelly, what I would like to do is maybe to open it up and see if everyone knows what these are. This is the first of them, so that we have 2 here. The A with the stylized structure below it. Of course, the one to the right. 2 others here that are recognized. One that actually incorporates both written form as well as a stylized form. And then the one on the right-hand side, which are 2 interlocking colored circles. And then here another one, which is again a registered trademark for a particular company, and then the one to the right, which is a not-for-profit organization. So, Kelly, if you would like to open it up with this and see if we can identify the one on the right-hand side on this current slide is a recognized trademark of what?
Students, feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. Thank you. Oh, we have Alexandra.
Okay, go ahead. So this
one. Are you referring to the right or left? Because the orange mark is Amazon.
Correct. It is one of the registered trademarks of Amazon, and of course the one to the right is
Google.
Google. Okay. And then let's take a look at the next one. Another student. So what have we got on the left-hand side here and on the right-hand side?
It's Citibank and American Express.
Half right. It is Citibank. MasterCard. Okay, and with MasterCard, not only the trademark is the interlocking circles with this, but the colors themselves are part of the trademark. The same as with Citi, with the Citi blue and the red stylized structure above it. Okay, and then let's see the next one down here. If we could have somebody else. What have we got on the left-hand side here?
FedEx.
Federal Express in logistics and delivery of products. What about the one on the right?
World Wildlife Fund.
Very, very good. World Wildlife Fund. And it's stylized, of course, stylized panda, but recognized by virtually everyone in the world. And with FedEx, it's this purple color and this orange that are trademarked, as well as the interlocking D and E here. They also have a secondary trademark that between the D and E has an embedded white arrow pointing from left to right. Okay. Now here are a couple of others that you may or may not know. Someone else that can give me which trademark this is on the left and the one on the right.
Apple and Apple Music.
There you go. Okay, so the stylized apple here is one of a number of different trademarks that Apple has used over the years, but is I believe the current one that they're using. And Apple Music with the musical note here, and although the color didn't come out as well as I would like it to, it's also wrapped around the color as well as the structure. Okay, now let's take a look at the next one. Can somebody tell? We know what the one on the left is. That's the Apple Corporation. What about the one on the right?
It's a Granny Apple.
Close, but not quite. And this was a major lawsuit. Who else used the Apple before the Apple Corporation came into being? Anybody? Okay, I'm sorry? Yes, correct. Apple Records actually sued Apple and lost in that particular lawsuit because with trademarks you can have actually the same name or similar structures, similar trademarks, if they are in non-competing and different business verticals, and this is a prime example of that. So Apple Music, I mean the Apple Corporation itself and the corporation that handled not only the Beatles but a number of other artists were defined as two different business verticals, non-competing, so both could maintain that. Okay, so what copyrights? So how do we use a copyright? Trademarks we identify with products and services. It helps us to visualize them. But what do copyrights give us? Copyrights are different. They're really creative works. So it could be anything like a literary document that's written, a song that's written, dramatic, artistic rights, even including computer software. Okay. Now, with copyrights, the individual does not have to file with the federal government. When the work is completed, the work itself is copywritten. So if you identify it with a copyright, it is in fact copywritten. If you wish to protect it further, it can be registered as well with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Now, while the trademark is identified with the corporation, the copyright itself for the work wraps around the authorship. Okay, and this particular type of protection gives one party the ability to protect that concept. A good example of how this can be used to expand or protect would be in the realm of literary works and movies. For example, if we were to think about things like Star Trek or other types of written works and movies that have evolved out of that. That particular script itself, or the text that was written, or the movie or TV show that was produced is copywritten. That doesn't protect someone from coming and developing another show or another work that might include, for example, space travel or exploration or other types of things. So the copyright protects specifically that work as it is created and is set in stone when it is finished. Now, as I said, the registration for copyrights are voluntary. It exists from the time the work is finished, but if you wish to bring a lawsuit or protect yourself against infringement, you do need to register it. Now, as opposed to the trademark, which lasts for as long as you keep it in circulation or in commerce, the copyright has a limited defined length of time. Currently, it lasts for 70 years after the death of the author. So if I wrote a book, or if I were to develop a song, it would be covered for 70 years after I have passed away. And if it was a work for hire, for example, if I was working for a company and I produced a particular copyrightable value, for example, a song or some kind of written documentation, that would go for 95 years from the publication of that, or a term of 120 years from the year of creation, whichever comes first with that. So it's a longer period of time, and it does give you the ability to protect, but also to identify for your organization something that has enduring value that will go much beyond 5 or 10 years. In this case, this can go, for example, 95 years to 120 years. Okay, and copyrights do have value, not only for individuals, but for corporations that hold them. And this next slide just gives you some sort of an idea. The song Happy Birthday that was created in 1893 still maintains that copyright. It's just about to expire, but the earnings to date with that has been over $50 million. If you scroll down through this, many of you may recognize some of these songs. Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which was copywritten in 1934. Every Breath You Take with Sting, Mel Torme, the Christmas song, and so forth. So these can generate substantial amounts of revenue. And it's not necessarily for the corporation, but for the individual who created them. And then if we look at famous literary and film copyrights and what their value, these are directly to the entrepreneurs. The top one currently is George Lucas, of course, with Star Wars, and that $4.5 billion for the corporation was split a little over $2.0 billion in cash from the Disney Corporation, and then a little over $2 billion in Disney stock. But what that did was that brought in all of the Star Wars movies, all of the copyrights associated with them, literary, film, and otherwise, and has allowed them now to expand dramatically into other venues associated with Star Wars. J.K. Rowling, of course, with the Harry Potter series, between the books and the movie rights and other things, has generated for her a little over $1 billion. Jim Henson, many of you may or may not know Jim Henson, was a creator, one of the creators of Sesame Street for children, with the Muppets for children, and then other TV series and movies, including Fraggle Rock, Dark Crystal, and Labyrinth. And his empire lasted from 1962 until 2013, when he died an untimely death due to an incurable bacterial infection. And then Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry and his estate, created Star Trek, of course, The Next Generation, and then a number of derivatives for Voyager and Deep Space Nine and so forth. And most recently, currently on TV in broadcast, are Discovery, are the Star Trek Discovery, and last year Picard. So they generated for him about $500 million, substantial in their own right. So most people think, though, of intellectual property as are wrapped around patents, but a patent can take one of three forms. It can be a utility patent, a design patent, or a plant patent. Utility patents have to be unobvious, they have to have utility, and they have to be able to define and create something that technically has not existed in the past or is an improvement to something that does exist. The design patent is used primarily the shape of a bottle, the shape of a car grill, things like that. And then plant patents are rather unique because they're used to protect derivatives, new kinds of plants that are produced asexually. Non-sexual means usually from cuttings or derivatives of existing plants. They don't cover genetically modified organisms. Those could come under, depending upon the territory, utility patents. Now, what does a patent give you? It gives you the right to exclude someone else from doing something. It really doesn't give you the right to do something, but it does give you the ability to protect the invention that you have. Now, patents do not have as long a life cycle or lifespan as any of the other intellectual property, and that was designed specifically to foster innovation. It does give you the ability in general to protect them now for about 20 years from the date of patent application or filing. And then for design patents, much shorter. I think those will run about 14 or 15 years. And then for patents, they last about 20 years. So these are defensible, but they also, with the patent office, require you to disclose your best methodology for producing and creating and using that patent, which fosters the ability for other individuals to come behind you and improve upon it, and to move forward, keep the area of invention moving in a positive direction. So if we think about this, there are a number of patents which have changed the world. And Kelly, I'd like to open this up a little bit with a couple of these. The one on the, if we can get somebody who could identify both of these, or let's just take the first one. On the left-hand side, the actual patent that was issued for this was back in I think it was 1962. It was called Omnidirectional Vertical Lift Helicopter Drone. What is that? That's a patent for something that has become almost ubiquitous now in terms of visualization and monitoring. This was the original patent for drones. What about the one on the right-hand side? An apparatus for the production of three-dimensional objects by stereolithography.
Is that a 3D printer?
Absolutely, it's a 3D printer. Okay, and let's take a look at these. Okay, I'll help with the one on the left, and I'll ask somebody to give me the one on the right. The one on the left was the original patent that issued back in, I believe it was, if I can read this, in the 1960s for the bullet train, the magnetic bullet train that runs on rails. And that has spurred a tremendous amount of innovation over the years. What about the one on the right-hand side? It was just patented, called electronic device. What was this? Or
Cell
is it?
phone?
More specifically.
iPhone?
Yes, the Apple iPhone. Okay, great. Okay, now these two may be a little tougher. Okay, what about the one on the left-hand side? Navigation system using satellites and passive ranging techniques. Requires 2 satellites and a ground position. GPS, right, ground positioning system. And that was done when? It looks like July the 29th, 1974. And there's been a tremendous amount of innovation since then. What about the one on the right-hand side? This is really hot news that's being used in biotech right now for gene editing.
GMOs?
No, this is the CRISPR. It actually, the name actually with this one is descriptive. It's the ability to go in and do an insertion directly into the gene and be able to then alter the expression of the proteins coming out of it. This has spurred, good grief, literally thousands of patents of applications and new drugs that are coming about now. Okay, what about this one? The one on the left-hand side, peer-to-peer information exchange?
Is that like for cell phones?
It's exactly, it was the original patent for a cell phone, for the cell phone network system. Okay?
So cell phone towers.
Yeah, it includes the towers and the devices and the core network, as well as a positioning satellite. What about the one on the right-hand side? And I was looking recently just to get an idea. There are literally hundreds of patents that are derivative off of this.
Is it like self-driving?
Yes, autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. And then I've got 2 others here. Okay, the one on the left-hand side was the original patent for what?
Solar panels?
Yes, the original patent for solar panels. And then what about the one on the right-hand side?
Wireless internet?
You bet. It was the original patent for the creation of a wireless internet system, linking devices through network or multiple networks. Okay, so if we think about using intellectual property, what are some of the positive outcomes that we can get using in a sustainable, enduring, value-driven enterprise? Well, believe it or not, companies that do this live longer. Their average lifetime compared to those that do not is about 20% longer. More importantly, they generally have better governance than their peers. The top 100 sustainable companies have a lower CEO to average worker pay ratio. And in my mind, that's really important in an age of ever increasing income inequality. Now, they also pay generally higher taxes. And as a shareholder, you may not think that's a good idea, but for policymakers and from pressure that's being put to bear from consumers and regulators, it's better that you pay your fair share. And then there are a couple of others here too. They generally are greener. And that's really is important. Companies that embrace sustainability and embrace the concept of trying to be a multi-generational enterprise that is sustainable for long periods of time need to be aware of what they're doing to the environment. And in general, they are greener. They have less CO2 emission and drive toward that. And two other things that happen too. Not only is do they have a greener footprint, but their revenue is greener. And that's important as well. And then one of the last things here is they tend to employ more women. And that's critical. In my mind, the link between sustainability measures and executive pay, as well as the fact hiring more and more women into senior executive positions and positions on their board of directors. They have, although there's a lot of room here to grow, 27% versus 19% is a big differential. And then finally, their investors tend to be happier. And this is something that a lot of people would probably say, well, this is crazy, but it's not. It really is not. If we look at the global 100 companies that have made a net investment in putting in place the emphasis on sustainability, their return on investment is stronger. And with their return on investment being stronger, their shareholders and their investors tend to be happier. So there really are positive things that come out of this for the enterprise itself. And in the most recent ranking in 2019 by World Economic Forum, we had a number of companies out of the US that made that. The top one was Cisco. A couple of others here of note that most people think about would be HP Enterprise. One that you might not know of very well is McCormick & Company, which is a spice manufacturer and blender. Tesla made the list at 74. The pharmaceutical company Merck at 78. Intel at 81. And then a canned food producer, Campbell's Soup Company, came in at 93. So although we did not make the top three, those were European companies, the U.S. did have good representation and still has a good ways to go. But this is still encouraging. So the takeaways and conclusions with this are, in my mind, that entrepreneurial ventures can integrate intellectual property tactical plan into their business strategy. It significantly improves the chances of success and enterprise longevity. It establishes and maintains a differentiated identity aligned with their mission and vision, and that allows for strong corporate messaging and a leadership role that can be taken. It incorporates key tenets of social responsibility and environmental stewardship. The message that's conveyed to the public regarding the enterprise values gives you the ability to create something that is clear and concise and effective for its products and services. And then finally, it does improve the operations of the enterprise, both increasing the employee satisfaction, investor confidence, and return on investment to the stakeholders. So with that, Kelly, I'll go ahead and close the discussion and just open it up for any general Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Fountain. So if anyone else has additional questions, if you'll please raise your hand, I can monitor the chat session. Thank you.
Kelly, maybe I can kick this off. So Michael, based on your last few slides, it seems that the job market for sustainability professionals should be pretty good or bright over the next several years, right?
Oh, yeah, George, you're absolutely correct. One of the strongest growth areas for corporations are in the role of chief sustainability officer or individuals at the C level or slightly below who can actually implement these principles and policies and help the corporation integrate them in. It looks very good, not only here in the U.S. but worldwide.
Thank you. Don't be shy. Ask questions.
So, Dr. Fountain, here's a
Kelly, we got a
over
question
here.
from Alexandra.
Okay.
Yeah.
I originally wrote this in a chat, but can these sustainability practices apply to healthcare?
Yes, very, very much so. In the healthcare space, are you talking about healthcare for the individual or the products and services that go into them?
Either. The reason why I say that, because usually the hospitals in the United States, that is, are usually, technically speaking, for-profit businesses. So I don't know if this was equitable.
That's a great question. I wish I had a simple answer for you. In systems where there is single payer healthcare, these principles are much easier to implement because across the entire enterprise, whether that would be a country or a region, or if we were to do it by state, the impact could be much stronger. From the standpoint of the corporations, and here in the U.S. where we have for-profit corporations as well as not-for-profits that are providing healthcare, more difficult to do, but that becomes a leadership responsibility, I believe, in my mind, at the CEO and board level. So I think you will see more and more embracing that, but I can't say that it's universal at the present time. I wish it was.
I have a question. I'm not sure if we're using the raise your hand feature or just asking them out.
Just go ahead. That's fine.
So, based on your knowledge, what specific types of companies do you think are the ones that are more leaning towards being sustainable?
I think, to be perfectly honest, I think any company that wishes to be in existence more than 5 or 10 years has to be. Mm-hmm. And it goes without saying. We have responsibility to all of our stakeholders and into the world in which we live, as well as to our investors if we're thinking about it from a corporate standpoint. So it's a matter of survival, and it's a matter of social responsibility.
Thank you.
Go ahead, guys.
We have a question from Alexandra.
What opportunities that undergraduate students can participate in order to have a better understanding of entrepreneurship and sustainability?
Okay, you're talking about at USF?
Yeah, that's one example.
Okay. Within the university, what I would do, since we do have now an undergraduate program in entrepreneurship, an undergraduate minor as well as a major, would be to take a look at the courses that are included there to expand your knowledge base, and those include courses on intellectual property, courses that deal with social entrepreneurship, global entrepreneurship, as well as things related to financing and so forth. So yeah, that's one way to do it. Another would be to engage with the Student Innovation Incubator, which is located over in USF Connect. There are a number of the student companies, undergraduate companies, that over the years, and depending upon who comes in this fall, all have been socially responsible and sustainable businesses working with a wide variety of different causes and products. So I would look at doing that as well.
Michael, I would add to that also the Green Energy Fund as an opportunity for students to participate in making the campus greener and learning from that and carrying on.
George, you're absolutely right, and that's something that Sharon Hannah West has been pushing and advocating for many years.
Yeah, great.
How do we get involved with that?
George, would you like to let them?
Sure.
What's the best way to communicate that, to get involved?
Yes, if you look for the Student Green Energy Fund at USF, you're going to find a lot of details there about the organization, how it works, and the kind of projects that students have led in the last several years, and contact information as well. So you can get started there. And you're welcome to contact us here through Kelly or directly if you have questions after that.
Thank you.
Sure. Tara, do you have a question, or this is an old hand?
Oh no, sorry, that was an old hand.
Well, George, it looks like we're coming up to about
yes, the time, right?
About 4:45. I just wanted to thank you for participating and listening today. And if you have any questions or that you would like to pose, those can be sent directly to me at my USF email address, and I'll be glad to respond to those. And George, thank you very much for the opportunity and the invitation to come and speak today.
Thank you, Michael. Great to have you here. And thank you to everybody who has attended tonight, this afternoon. And I wish everybody a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you now. Goodbye.
Thank you, Dr. Fountain.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I don't know if you know about this, but does the Blue Health Innovation and those other contests count as well? Or just answer your email?
Oh, send it to me and I will respond by email, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.